Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania with an update on the US Refugee Program offer for Afrikaners in South Africa, whoever those folks may be, identified as Afrikaners by the United States Department of State when they eventually get around to that. We gave you occasional updates on the interview process, having provided 2 so far. I'm not giving updates on every interview that people send me information about from their personal experience, but when there's a significant deviance or there's a question about how things are maybe a little different than people expected, I will give you an update, and that's the case today. So let's talk about this interview. Now, a lady went for an interview in Pretoria and met with the staff there and was surprised that there were 2 people in the interview, one of whom appeared to be an observer. Well, I'm not sure why you're surprised. I've made it very clear to people in the previous 2 videos that I made about interviews that 2 people were present. So it's not unusual to have a second person in there. Apparently, people are sharing things in groups, and this is not helping. People are sharing things in Facebook groups and spreading around social media about their experiences and acting as if they're subject matter experts in how these interviews are done. Well, the fact you've gone through an interview doesn't make you a subject matter expert. It makes you a subject matter expert on your experience that you went through, but not on the process. So, having been a criminal investigator, having been a counterintelligence agent, having conducted interviews all over the world for people, I have the experience to explain what's going on here based on what information we have. Doesn't mean I'm correct, but it's an accurate analysis, I would argue, just the same. So the fact that there were 2 people in the interview shouldn't surprise you. That's not unusual. And if one person asks questions, the other person never asks any questions, that also shouldn't surprise you. Now, one of my moderators made a questionnaire based on the second interview video that I did, in which people were asking a lot of questions about social media, different background questions, things like that. So it's just a prudent questionnaire that they put together, and I'm not a fan of sharing that stuff. I did share it in the Telegram and WhatsApp groups so that people had some kind of expectation information you should be gathering to prepare for your interview. Now, these are currently preliminary interviews. As far as we know, they're not the actual refugee program interviews. In other words, if you go for this, it doesn't mean you've applied for refugee status. It just means that you've been interviewed because the U.S. government is on a fact-finding mission to get a feel for what's going on. And I think people need to understand that. So they could ask you all kinds of questions. They might not ask you questions. So this person was a little, I think, distraught that she wasn't asked a bunch of questions like other people apparently were asked. Well, it's okay. Relax. Investigators, if they have the time and the resources, do their work before they sit down with you. They've already done some sort of investigation. They've checked into your background, most likely. That isn't always the case, particularly in Russia. There's a lot of people coming through, like say if you're in a camp in Kenya for Somalis, or if you're in Chad, something like that, of a unfolding crisis and you're interviewing refugees. But in this case, it's very deliberate and there's time involved. So it's most likely that you weren't asked questions about your social media, you weren't asked questions about your experiences, having been discriminated on based on your race, because they already have that information. They may have it, or may not be necessary. Don't take that necessarily as a sign that the interviewer is disinterested and your case is just being handled perfunctory. Now, it could be the case, but I don't think that is the case. There are consequences not doing your job in the U.S. government. It's not like South Africa where you're employed forever. If you fail in the United States, you get sacked. So that's important to understand. These people have responsibility to do it. So this person was not asked to sign any form to give authorization to check their social media. Well, we give you a form. Let me share a little dirty secret with you. You don't need your permission to look at your social media. You publish it. It's a matter of public information. You put it out there. So government doesn't need your permission. They just do that as a courtesy. Now, when they seek your permission, it's because if they go to a social media company and ask for information, then they can show that you've granted permission and the social media company is inclined to share it. But your stuff is freely available on the internet and people can go find it. So keep that in mind. So don't be surprised if you're not asked to sign anything. It's kind of surprised me that people were asked to sign something in the first round interviews. Anyway, so continue on with that story. Now, this person was not even asked for their telephone numbers, their email addresses. Now, that's information that we put into the questionnaire that my moderator created, and understand that that was a generic list of questions that were asked to a previous person who'd been interviewed, interviewee. That's not all encompassing, it's not all inclusive. We warned you of that. So if you're taking that questionnaire, this is why I was reticent to put it out there. If you're taking that questionnaire as if it's something official, it is not. It's simply a courtesy of things you should consider you might be asked. It's just prudent. When I do my background investigation information for my clearance update for security clearances, I always have all the information. When I go to borrow money for my business, I have all my information that I anticipate the bank might want to have, things that they may need for my credit history, my business, my income, my revenue, my expenses. It's just being prudent, that's all. Now, one distinction about this person is that this person is not the head of the household, but a member of the household, an adult, who went because the head of the household had to protect something back home. They were unable to attend, so they weren't required to go to the meeting, which is something I also shared with you. It may not be necessary for everyone to attend. In fact, I'm a bit surprised when the spouse and the other members also attend. The whole family goes to these meetings. That kind of caught me off guard. As far as I know, you only need to interview the head of household normally, but and this was the case here where only the head of household was interviewed. In this case, it wasn't the head of household, but you get my point. All right, so there you have it, folks. Not every interview is the same. No one should freak out. No one should be concerned if you don't get asked questions. Don't think your case is being dismissed, because there are no cases at the moment as far as we know. The U.S. government is yet to announce the Refugee Resettlement Program standards, and they haven't even defined who an Afrikaner is to go from South Africa. So we have to wait and see what happens there. All right, thanks a lot, folks, from Central Pennsylvania with an update based on a real-life experience of someone who's interviewed at the embassy in the Refugee Resettlement Program, preliminary round of interviews. There you have it. Not every interview is the same. You aren't always going to be asked the same questions. Be flexible. Just be prepared to have information in case they ask for it. All right? Be safe out there.